Hello, everyone. It's Reverend Sarah Grady from St. Paul's United Church in Paris, Ontario, doing a Tuesday check-in. And this week, Brian McLaren in We Make the Road by Walking offers us a chapter called The Stories That Shape Us. And I was immediately drawn to this chapter because I am the daughter of an English professor. My dad has 2 PhDs, one in English literature, the other one in philosophy. He's been a lifelong reader and learner, and he's pretty amazing. And he's taught me a lot about the written word. And actually, I have learned quite a bit from my father about how to be in ministry and biblical interpretation. He is very much into listening and learning around church as well. He teaches Sunday school, he teaches Bible studies, and he and my mom are both very involved at my home congregation of Islington United Church in helping to write the story of that congregation. Serving here at St. Paul's, I've been here just over a year now, and prior to coming to this congregation, I had heard some stories about this place, but as I have come here now, I've gotten to know a few more, and it's very interesting to think about the stories that shape who we are as a community of faith. There's lots of stories that come attached to a community of faith, some amazing, some chapters are not so amazing in that story, and that happens not only in our communities of faith, but in our personal lives as well. I celebrated the life of Audrey Baudet with some members of her family a few weeks back, and I did get to know Audrey before she passed on, but it's always amazing to me, even if I've gotten to know somebody pretty well, when I hear the stories that are shared about them at their celebration of life. It's one of the greatest privileges of this job that I'm called to hear about somebody's life through the eyes of the ones that have spent more time with them. And always, it's such a pleasure and such a wonderful thing to hear those stories shared at a celebration of life. In my own family, we love to share stories. We're great storytellers. We're also known for embellishing a little bit in some of the stories. But I do like what Brian McLaren has to say about that, and I just want to read this line. He says, "Some stories are real, some are pretend, and some of the very best ones use a mixture of both reality and make-believe to tell us something important." I believe that's true of the stories of our own personal lives and also in our biblical narratives. Later, he says, when we engage with the stories of the Bible, we become members of the interpretive community. And that's a big responsibility, especially when we remember how stories from the Bible have been used to promote both great good and great harm. As we move through this time of pandemic, I wonder what the story of our Christian faith will be when we tell the story again in 5 years or even next week. Are we doing everything we can to make this story of our human history as good and as I'm not comforting as possible? I'm not even sure what the right word is to use. It's a very interesting time in this chapter of my own personal life, in this chapter of my ministry, in the life and work of St. Paul's United Church. And it'll be very interesting when we reflect back on this chapter of our human history in a few years to think about the story that we'll share of this time. Stories do shape who we are. In my own family, I always loved to share the story about how my parents met. My parents met back in the 60s when my dad was a guitar player for a band called The Plague, and my mom used to like to go watch them down in Yorkville. And they met, fell in love, and 50 years later celebrated their 50th anniversary just last year and are still going strong. So that's always a story that gets shared in my family. There's lots of other stories that get shared around. I wonder what the stories from your family are that get shared around. The ones, every year we're going to start pulling out Christmas decorations soon. Some of you probably already have, getting ready for Advent and Christmas. And it's always funny when we do that in my family. You pull out a special Christmas decoration to place on the tree and you remember where it was passed down from. Each of us, 7 children in my family, have a special decoration from the year that we were born. And every year when we pull it out and we help my parents decorate the tree, although it might look differently this year than it has other years, we hear the story about our birth or about the time surrounding that. There's a unique story that's attached to each one of us. I wonder, what are the stories that shape you? What are the stories from your personal life that have shaped you? And what are the stories from your life, your story connected to a community of faith, whether it's here at St. Paul's, another community of faith that have shaped who you are and how you have come to understand God and the life and work to which we are called of ministry and justice in the name of Jesus Christ. The stories of Jesus are not always easy. Some of them are amazing and wonderful and tell of a great and amazing love born into this world, and other ones we would rather forget. You know, I always think one of the most powerful services of the entire year is the Good Friday service, and yet that's also the most difficult chapter of our Christian faith to think about. That is the story of Jesus's crucifixion, his trial, and his death, and it's one that lots of people don't attend a Good Friday service because for them it is simply too hard. What are the stories that shape you? Feel free to share them with me, send them, put them in the comments below, send me a text message or an email, give me a call, or send some information to the church office. I want to know, what are the stories that shape you and who you are today and your understanding of God and your place in this story of life. And I hope to see you soon. I hope to hear from you soon. And wherever you are this day, I pray that your story unfolding is helping you to be the best version of yourself that God calls us all to be. Blessings this day, friends. Talk to you soon.